There are kinds of silence that feel ordinary, like evenings or empty streets after midnight. And then there is the silence that follows a funeral. A silence that seems to swallow the walls, the floors, even the air you breathe. My name is Lucas Halle. I'm 20. And 3 days ago, we buried my mother in Ridgeview, Colorado, a town so quiet that even grief echoes differently here. The morning of the funeral, the sun felt cruel, sharp, almost mocking the black clothes and swollen eyes gathered around her grave. I remember holding a single white rose in my hand, my fingers shaking, but my mind drifting far from the moment everyone else was trapped in. People wept, whispered, prayed. I heard nothing. Just the hollow thud of soil landing on the coffin, each sound heavier than the last. And then I saw her, standing behind the last row of mourners, dressed in a fitted black coat, her face hidden partly behind dark sunglasses. Marisa Cole, my mother's closest friend, or Achilles, that is what I had been told when I was younger. She hadn't visited us in nearly 6 years. Not since before my mother's illness worsened. I remembered fragments of her. A soft laugh, perfume that filled the room, the way she always looked like she was carrying secrets she had no intention of revealing. When the funeral ended, people drifted, our neighbors, church members, my cousins, all offering scripted condolences that meant nothing. But Marisa stayed. She didn't speak to anyone. She didn't move. She just waited. When the last car disappeared, she finally walked toward me. Lucas, she said quietly. Hearing my name in her voice felt strange, familiar, yet distant, like a memory brushing against the present. Thank you for coming, I managed to reply. She nodded, but her eyes stayed on the ground. I couldn't explain why, but something in me wanted her to stay longer. Maybe because she was the last link to my mother's life before sickness had consumed it. Maybe because she looked like she knew something the rest of us didn't. Out of instinct more than intention, I asked, "Do you want to come to the house for a bit?" A pause. Then she said, "Yes." The house felt different the moment we stepped inside. Not just empty but aware, as if the walls remembered her. My mother's photo still hung above the fireplace, but the rest of the house felt heavier, as if grief soaked into every beam and corner. Marisa removed her sunglasses. For a moment, the afternoon light struck her face, revealing something that made my breath catch. She didn't look like the woman I remembered. She looked older, yes, but also sharper, stronger, beautiful in a way you don't define, you just notice. "I wasn't sure I should come," she murmured. "Why not?" "Because your mother and I had complicated goodbyes." I didn't know what that meant, but I didn't ask. Silence stretched between us. The clock in the hallway ticked like a slow heartbeat. "Your mother loved you fiercely," she said. "Sometimes it didn't feel like it," I whispered. "That's the thing about love," she replied, stepping closer. "People think it's soft, but real love, it's messy, it's loud, and sometimes it hides behind the wrong actions." Her hand touched my shoulder light, almost hesitant, yet it sent a crack through the numbness I'd been carrying since the funeral. I didn't cry. I just stood there, absorbing a quiet comfort I didn't expect from a woman who had disappeared from our lives years ago. "Stay for a while," I said, my voice slow. "I don't want to be alone in this house." Marisa looked around, her expression unreadable. "All right," she said, "just for a little while." But the house felt like it had other plans for both of us. As the sun dipped behind the pines outside, shadows crawled across the floorboards. The air changed, heavy, electric, expectant, almost as if the house recognized her return, and it was waiting for something or someone. When she paused in front of my mother's portrait, her breath hitched just slightly, but enough for me to notice. "She never told you everything, did she?" Marisa whispered. I turned sharply. "What do you mean?" But she didn't answer. Instead, she stepped farther into the house, her footsteps echoing with unsettling familiarities. If she had walked these halls 100 times, maybe more. And that's when I knew Marisa wasn't just part of my mother's past. She was part of something bigger, something unfinished, something the house still remembered, something it was waiting to reveal. The night settled over Ridgeview like a slow exhale, thick and unmoving. From outside, the neighborhood looked asleep, warm lights glowing behind curtains, distant traffic humming faintly. But inside my house, nothing felt calm. The moment Marisa stepped into the living room, the temperature shifted as if the air tightened around us. She moved slowly, her fingers brushing across the edge of the fireplace mantel, the photos, the dusty vases. If she were revisiting something buried deep. "You okay?" I asked, trying to read her expression. She didn't answer right away. "This house," she whispered, "feels the same. Almost too much the same." I frowned. "What do you mean?" Her gaze lingered on a photo of my mother. A faint, unreadable smile touched her lips. "Your mother and I lived many lives in these rooms," she said quietly. "Some you know nothing about, maybe never should have known." The way she said it sent a cold prickle across my neck. "What are you talking about?" But she avoided the question, turning instead toward the old upright piano in the corner. The wood was cracked. The keys yellowed. My mother hadn't touched it in years. I never even remembered hearing a single tune. Marisa lifted the fallboard gently. Dust rose in a faint cloud. "You used to sit under this piano when you were little," she murmured. I blinked. "I don't remember that." "You wouldn't." Her voice dropped, barely above a whisper. "You were too young. Too many things happened too early." Before I could ask more, she pressed the first key. A low, soft note vibrated through the living room. Another. Then another. Not music, just searching, feeling, tasting the air for memories. It was strange. Those soft notes shouldn't have made my chest tighten, but they did. They made the house feel smaller, as if the walls leaned in to listen. "You play?" I asked. "I used to," she said. "Your mother made me learn," said. "Music reveals what people hide." She looked at me then, her eyes sharp and impossibly sad. "And she hid more than you ever guessed, Lucas." My pulse quickened. What did she hide? She closed the piano, shutting the conversation with it. "Tonight isn't the night for that." Her tone was final, too final. I turned away because pressing her felt wrong, but a knot of unease twisted deep inside me. She knew something heavy, something she didn't trust me with. Not yet. We moved into the kitchen. I made tea hands, trembling slightly, though I pretended otherwise. The kettle whistled and steam filled the air. Marisa leaned against the counter, watching me with an expression that felt like she was measuring every move I made. "When did you last sleep?" she asked softly. "I don't know. 2 days? Maybe 3. That's dangerous." Her voice was gentle now, a sharp contrast to earlier. Grief does strange things. It tricks your mind. Makes you hear things that aren't there, see things that never existed. She spoke like someone who had lived that reality deeply, painfully. "You talk like you've been through it," I said. Her jaw tightened more than most. There it was, again, that hint of another story. another life. One I wasn't being invited into. She took her tea and walked back into the living room. I followed, unable to shake the feeling that she moved through the house like she knew it better than I ever had. She stopped in front of a small wooden cabinet, the one my mother always kept shut. I had tried to open it once as a kid. She scolded me, almost panicked, and I never touched it again. Marissa knelt in front of it. She kept this locked until the very end. She said quietly, "Why?" "She was protecting you." "Protecting me? From what?" She traced the metal lock with her fingertips. "She asked me once if I would open it for you if she never got the chance." My breath hitched. "And will you?" "Not tonight," she said, standing abruptly. "You're not ready. And the house isn't ready for you to know. The house isn't ready." No normal person talked like that. No normal memory carried that kind of weight. But before I could argue, a sudden thud echoed from upstairs. We both froze. The house was empty. We were alone, or supposed to be. Marissa's eyes flashed with something that wasn't fear, something closer to recognition. "It's starting," she whispered. "What is?" But she didn't look at me. She stared toward the staircase, toward the darkness beyond it. "As your mother's last promise takes form," she said softly, "the house will remember everything she tried to forget." She stepped back, her voice almost trembling. "Lucas, you're about to learn a truth that will change the way you remember her forever." When the truth finally showed itself, it didn't arrive with thunder. It arrived quietly, almost politely, like it had been waiting for me to open the door on my own. The night after my confrontation with my parents, sleep didn't come. I tossed, turned, fought with my thoughts, and still the silence inside my room felt louder than any storm outside. I kept replaying every look my parents had exchanged over the past years, tight smiles, unfinished sentences, long pauses. All the little things I once dismissed as normal family quirks now carried a different weight. By sunrise, I felt hollow inside, like someone had opened me up and scooped out every certainty I ever held. But one question echoed louder than all others. If they aren't telling me everything, then who will? There was only one place left where answers might still be hiding: my father's workshop behind the house. A place we were never allowed to enter without him. He always claimed it was dangerous, but danger suddenly felt less frightening than ignorance. I waited until the house stirred with early morning activity. Mom clattered in the kitchen. Dad's footsteps moved down the hallway. I grabbed my jacket, slipped outside, and crossed the backyard before anyone noticed. The workshop door creaked open with the slightest push. I stepped inside. It smelled like old wood, iron, and secrets. Shelves lined the walls, boxes labeled with numbers, journals stacked in uneven piles, old photographs tucked inside half-open drawers. Nothing unusual at first glance, but then I noticed something on the far desk. A thin folder with my name written in bold black marker. Lucas Halle. My pulse jumped. I felt the floor tilt under me. I opened it. And everything I thought I knew shattered again, clean, silent, merciless. Inside were papers I'd never seen before. Hospital forms, handwritten notes, a printed email, all from around the time I was born. One sentence burned itself into my mind. Biological father declined involvement. Adoption processed privately. My breath caught. I read it again, and again, and with each repetition, the truth dug deeper. I wasn't biologically my father's son. The man I'd loved, trusted, admired, wasn't connected to me by blood. The world didn't break apart dramatically. No explosion. No scream, just a slow collapse somewhere inside my chest. I sank into the chair, folder in my lap, hands trembling. Why didn't they tell me? Why hide something this big? Why build an entire life on a foundation that wasn't even real? Before I could gather myself, the workshop door opened behind me. My father stepped in. He froze when he saw the folder in my hands. I could see the truth crack across his face like glass. "Lucas!" he whispered. "Please, why?" My voice didn't feel like mine. It felt toda heavier. He walked toward me slowly, as if afraid I might break. "You were 6 weeks old when we met you," he said quietly. "You were tiny, fragile, abandoned in a situation no child should ever face. We didn't plan it. We didn't prepare for it. But the moment your mother held you, she couldn't let go." I swallowed hard. My throat burned. "And you?" I asked. "Did you want me?" His answer came without hesitation. "I loved you. The second I saw you." Those words hit me like a punch emotionally, because part of me wanted to believe him, and another part wasn't ready. "We planned to tell you," he continued, voice shaking, but time kept slipping away. "Every year it felt harder. We didn't want you to feel unwanted, because you never were, not for a single day." Silence stretched between us, thick and raw. My entire life rewrote itself in my mind. Birthdays, advice, road trips, late night talks. All the moments I had believed were built on blood were actually built on something else. Choice, commitment, love, even if flawed. But pain and love can coexist, and right now both were tearing at me. I stood up, clutching the folder. I need time," I said, voice barely holding steady. He nodded, eyes wet. "Take what you need. Just don't shut us out, Lucas." I walked out of the workshop, heart pounding, the morning sun hitting my face like an accusation. For the first time in my life, I didn't know who I was. But I knew my story wasn't what I thought. My past wasn't what I believed. My identity wasn't the one I'd carried for 20 years. And now I had to decide what to do with the truth that refused to sleep.